Hello and welcome to the Copycat Stitch podcast. I'm Bailey and I am sitting down to record this a little sooner than I normally would. I am trying to make an effort to record my podcast a little more frequently so that I don't end up getting super behind and rushing through them and skimming over details because I feel like I have too many things to talk about. So this is longer than I wanted to leave it, but life was lifing and I just wasn't able to make time. But I didn't leave it a whole month this time, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to get on a more regular schedule of this pretty soon. I do have some updates. It's only been a couple weeks, but I did get a lot done, and I'm excited to show you. Look who's here. Okay. Kneeling down or something? Okay, I have a couple finished objects that I'm happy to show. The first of which was quite nearly finished last time, and that is my newest Shelia bikini. Hard to do. With or without a cat, it's kind of hard to show these up. So this was made out of an old knit crate yarn. If you've been around here, you might know that I have a pretty sizable stash of old, I've discontinued is a little redundant. Everything from knit crate is discontinued. But I have a lot of those that I used to stock up when they had sales, and I was a member of their monthly club. So I do have a huge stash. These were from the monthly club, so I only had 2 skeins of this. Don't remember what the yarn base is called or the colorway. I feel like it's something like Serenity or Tranquility or something like that. Either way, you have the details. I don't. But I only had the 2 skeins of this. I believe it was a DK weight, and it is 100% cotton. Super, super soft though, and I kind of didn't know what else to do with it. I thought it would work really well. It's a very happy, like upbeat, tropical little color. And, you know, I think it came out okay. The color pooling can be a little weird on a garment like this, but it's good enough. It's a swimsuit. I'm going on vacation in about a month, and I will be happy to have this. I'm sure you can see here that I also sewed in swimwear lining. I had some of this swimwear lining fabric left over from, I've made a couple swimsuits before by crochet. And I already had that laying around. So sorry I can't show you both pieces at the same time, but this one's the top. So these are really interesting. This pattern, I made one last year as well, which I showed on here at the time. And it's a really fun pattern. It's very, very detailed. It's entirely made to measure. So there's really very few parts of it that have a specific stitch count or measurement. Almost every step of the project is an explanation of how to get to where you want it to be. Like how to get the amount of coverage you want for the cup, how to make the band long enough to fit around your body, how to make the straps long enough to, you know, accommodate you, how many repeats to add to make it as long as you need. So very little cut and dry in this pattern, but that does make it really customizable and really fun, I think. Obviously, I've made 2 of them, so which I am likely to do. I am absolutely a pattern repeater. If I enjoy a pattern and I enjoy the finished object I have from it, I repeat patterns a lot. I'm very, very likely to cast something on again if I enjoyed it the first time, as you will see in a few minutes. So anyway, this also has the swimsuit liner sewn into it. And this style of bikini, there's no connection at the back. This is extremely hard to show. Okay, let's try it this way. So the, I hope you can kind of see there. Nothing is attached here. It's basically, well, it's all attached, but it's kind of all one piece. These straps are attached at the front, but they're not attached to anything at the back. They just kind of loop through. And I have them looped through twice just for a little extra support. So they crisscross a little bit, which is the same thing I did with my other one last year. Although last year I added more repeats, so the top was like a good deal longer, and I added extra loops so it would crisscross more. But yeah, I think it's fun, and I will be happy to have it on vacation. And part of me wants to make like a swim cover too, but like another part of me is over summer knits. We're going to talk about that a lot. Oh my gosh. And I have so many projects going. I always have so many projects going, right? But I have so many like summer projects going right now that I do feel like I want to finish. I want to be done. It's still summer, it's still hot out, but mentally, I think a lot of us are already jumping ahead to fall, myself included. And I've got all these ideas and all these things on my queue that I can't wait to make in fall. I even ordered some new yarn to make something specific that I really want to make. But in the meantime, I do want to wrap up as many of the summer projects as I can because I absolutely don't want to close out this season with like half a dozen unfinished t-shirts and tank tops that I'm going to have to start next year, because I know once the warm weather rolls around next year, I'm not going to want to just keep continuing on with these same old projects that I got sick of this year. I'm going to want to start new ones. So I'm trying to do future me a favor and wrap up as much as I can now. Young lady, we have to show my California sweater, but you're in the way. My next finished object is my test knit of the California sweater, which I haven't blocked it yet. It's so pretty, it's so soft, it's so drapey. I love it. When I block it, I do think I'm going to block a little more for length. I did make it exactly as the pattern specified, with the caveat that obviously it's a test knit, it's still going, and the test group and Leslie Knit California, the designer, found some hiccups in the pattern after I was past the point of the errors. So basically, it was one of those things where she was like, well, you're already super far past that. Don't worry about ripping back to fix it. You're just going to have extra positive ease, which I do. I don't think it's a big deal. It's supposed to be a pretty oversized, slouchy drop shoulder sweater in the first place. And I do like how it came out, but the length of it is just, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think I have a long torso and I just would have preferred a little bit more. So when I block it, I am going to try to block it a little long. And I did go with the tapered sleeve option. Now, because of the weird hiccup with the stitch counts in the body and splitting for sleeves, my stitch count for the sleeves was off. So in the final pattern, this is not exactly the proportions that it's going to be. I also made stitch gauge with the recommended needle size, but my row gauge was a little off. My stitches are actually like a tiny bit tall. So instead of the 22 rows for the gauge, I actually have 19. So I did keep that in mind for all components of the pattern. I was going to the recommended measurements instead of the recommended row counts, because I know that the row counts won't add up for me. And because I decided to do the tapered sleeves, I had to alter the rate of tapering a little bit to accommodate for that. So because I could tell I was going to be off by several inches if I kept with the decrease rate that's listed in the pattern, I decided to do one fewer row between each repeat. So I decreased one row quicker all the way down the sleeve, and it came out just about perfect. I think I came out over half an inch by the time I got to the amount of decreases specified, having left out those dozen or so rows. I was only half an inch over. But like I said, I'm a tall person. I have a long torso. I have longer arms. So I think that that extra length will be useful. I also am like the type of person that likes to pull my sleeves down over like the bottom of my hand. I like them to be a little long. So very pleased with that. I can't wait to get it blocked. I have not sent in my measurements or my notes or anything yet because I haven't blocked it, and I want to measure it before and after blocking, and I'm just putting off that part because that's less exciting to me than knitting. Speaking of, I started another one because I was very pleased. I think if you were here for the last episode, you saw me talk about the mohair that I had for that and how I only had 2 skeins of the mohair, which technically was less yardage than was recommended in the pattern, and I was nervous about getting there, so I had this like extra kind of similar backup mohair caked up and ready to kind of sprinkle in if I needed to. Stop it. Just to make the mohair last through the whole sweater. I didn't need to. I actually ended up with 10 extra grams of the mohair, which is about 20% of the skein. I believe they were 50-gram skeins. So knowing that I could make an entire California sweater with only 2 skeins of mohair, I couldn't stop thinking about these. I had 2 skeins of this beautiful mohair that I love so much. It's from Lily Loops. It's a hand-dyed yarn company. I got this at a particular yarn festival at Rhinebeck last year. And it's mostly these tan light brown colors, but with just a little bit of like cotton candy blue and cotton candy pink mixed in. And the colorway is called Couch Surfer. I'm not familiar with it, but I know that the way the booth was merchandised, all of the colorways are based on like album covers, like music albums. And I am not familiar with the album Couch Surfer. I don't know if that's an artist. I believe it's an album name. I don't know what artist it's from, but I'm a big fan of the color. So I had these two skeins, and this was one of those things that I was like, why did I buy two skeins? I should have bought three. I'm never going to be able to make a sweater out of it. I kind of convinced myself I would use it for something else, and then I never did. Now, with the knowledge that I can make my California sweater out of two skeins, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I wasn't sure that I had anything to hold with it for the sweater. I've been really good so far this year about working from stash and not buying new yarn. And I really didn't want to go out and buy new yarn just to use that mohair for another California sweater right now. So I was like, I'm just going to poke around my stash and see what I have. So I decided to try it with this, which is a weird choice. I wish I had had like a wool or a sock yarn to use it with. But I do have a whole bunch of this. It's Lion Brand Oh Baby Organic, and it's a sport weight cotton. It's meant for babies. It's really soft. So I just convinced myself, let's just make a swatch. Let's just see what happens. So I pulled out this cotton yarn, and I held it with my mohair, and I made this little swatch. And I don't know, my hand just slipped, and I cast on a new California sweater right then and there. I can't help it. This gauge is so refreshing. I'm ready. I just made it through. I'm in the bottom ribbing. I'm partway through it, and I'm ready to join the next cake of mohair, but I wanted to leave it in skein form to show you here on the podcast because it does look very different in the cake, and you really can't see the pink and blue that well when it's caked up. So I wanted you to be able to see the skein. But yeah, let's show them together. Ooh. So I was skeptical at first about using the cotton yarn, but the only other thing I had in stash that I could possibly have used with it is literally the same yarn combo that I used on my other California sweater, and I kind of wanted to do something different. I thought if I do the exact same thing with virtually the same yarn immediately, I might get tired of it. So I decided to test with this cotton, and obviously I knit up that swatch and immediately cast on a new one, and I have to say the weight of the cotton is so good in this. It feels cool to the touch. It's really breezy. I think you can see some light through it if I hold it up this way. At least I can, looking back towards the camera like this. But like the weight of the cotton gives it a drape. And it's not too heavy. It's not like a fully cotton garment, but it's heavier than a wool would be. And I really, really, really love it. I think I love this one way more than the first one I made. And another reason that I thought it would be useful for me to do another one, not just because, like I said, I'm a pattern repeater, and once I get something that I enjoy, I always want to make another one, and I'm on a kick of going through stash yarn, and all of these components came together, and I wanted to use this particular yarn, and I wanted to make another one. But the test knit period goes for a couple more weeks, and like I said, my stitch counts were all off on the first one because I jumped in so fast and knit that body so fast that I got all the way past that point before they realized the error. So mine isn't quite the proportions it should be. Not that it's bad, but I would like to be able to give Leslie accurate feedback about the actual pattern that's going to be published in the end rather than the early draft of it that we revised almost right away. So this one is knit with the revised version with all the new stitch counts and everything. This one I did knit an extra inch in the stockinette section of the body before starting the ribbing because of the way I felt about the length on the first one. And I'm very pleased and I'm loving it so much. And honestly, I've wanted to work on it for like the last couple days, but I didn't because I was waiting to skein up this yarn. And like I said, I waited longer than I wanted to film this podcast. I thought I would have filmed it a few days ago and I would have been able to do that by now, but that wasn't the case. So we're here now. I'm going to cake this up after we're done talking today. And then I'm going to probably just like work on that all night. I'm so excited. I should also mention the pattern comes with the option of a tapered sleeve or a straight sleeve. I had a hard time choosing with the first one. And the deciding factor in choosing tapered sleeves was I was nervous about if I had enough mohair to make it to the end. Now that I know I do, and now that I've already done the tapered sleeve, and I had to make those adjustments to make the tapered sleeve work, I think I'm just going to do the straight sleeve this time, just for variety, and yeah, be able to give feedback on both. I have another test knit that I introduced last time. This is the Seashell Tank by s.knits. It probably doesn't look that different. I think last time I had shown you, I had just joined under the arms. So it's a little longer, but I have done a lot on it actually. So this is made of this 100% cotton yarn, which does make it a little tedious to work on for long periods of time because it's fingering weight cotton, and cotton just dries out your hands and, you know, can be tiring. I have had a couple stretches where I worked on it for a long time. This has been my on-the-go project. This is the one that I bring with me in the car because it is just stockinette in the round. It's easy to work on. It has a deadline. I don't want to fall behind on it and end up having to cram it all in at the end. But so far, I don't think that's going to be an issue because I have a few weeks left. And truly, all I have to finish is like get to the length I need and do the hem. And then there's this cute crochet detail around the armholes and the neck hole. And I don't know if it's around the bottom hem or not. It's really pretty. I'm excited for that detail. I haven't decided what color to use yet. I have so many scraps and partial skeins, and I really want to use something. I don't want to break into a brand new skein just to do the border on this. And I also want it to be solid because I just think a solid color that contrasts with this will be prettier than a variegated. I think would look a little odd because it'll be kind of patchy and odd color pooling around the edges. I have a couple ideas. I have the scraps left over of the Knit Picks palette from the temperature blanket I made for my sister for Christmas. I've got a whole bunch of colors of that left over. And I have a couple cones of yarn that I purchased at like thrift stores or garage sales or whatever that I just used for decoration. But a couple of them I could probably use that for this and it wouldn't even make a dent in it, and I could keep using it for decoration, and I thought that would be cool. There's a dark green one and like a peachy pink one. I don't know. I feel like the pink might not quite work with this cool gray color, but the green might look really good with it. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll do a vote on my like Instagram stories if you follow me on Instagram. If you don't, pop over there and follow, and then you'll get an update and we'll decide together, I guess. But the other thing I want to mention about this is pattern is really interesting because at first glance, it's just like a scoop neck tank top. But there's a lot of great detail written into the pattern for not alterations, but customization. So there's optional bust darts, there's optional waist shaping, and there's a third one, and I don't remember what it is. There was 3 optional customizations you can add. And what was really nice about it to me was that the author went into so much detail about like, here's how to determine if you need waist shaping. Like if you want the fit to do this, or if your body tends to be this way, maybe try this. And then even within the waist shaping section, there's different options for how much or how far apart. And I found that really useful because I didn't really know a lot about the effect of waist shaping or bust darts on a garment. I mean, I do know what they do in theory, but I'm not a designer. I don't know how to decide how and where to put that on a garment for myself. So I thought that was really thorough and really useful. And based on those explanations, I did decide to do a bust dart. So I also learned something new from this, which is kind of obvious if you think about it, but I guess it's something that I never thought about. Now, bust dart to me makes me think of sewing, which of course is a subtractive dart because you have a rectangular piece of fabric and you want it to be curved. So you're like sewing a triangle to remove that triangle from the bust area. Now for knitting, we're making everything from scratch. So bust darts are additive and you actually add a wedge shape to the bust. And again, there was different details about like if you have this bra size or this cup size or what have you, a whole chart about which size bust dart to add, and a lot of instructions about where to decide, how to decide where to put it in the length here. So let me see if I turn it inside out, we might be able to see my darts. Kind of. So I think you can kind of see here. It's like a wedge shape that goes all the way across the bust. So kind of when you got to about here in the knitting, you would do these German short rows to make a kind of wedge here that's just a little longer than it would be on the back. And I've just learned so much from this project already. I'm very pleased with it. I think the pattern is worth it for all that information alone. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say worth it because I don't know what it's priced at and everybody has a different opinion about that. But there's a lot of explanation and a lot of tutorial in this pattern that I think is really, really useful and that I will be able to carry forward just in knitting in general in creating my own clothes in the future. So super enjoying this one. The deadline is a couple weeks away. I have been picking away at it. I did take it to the movies once. We have plans to go see another movie next week. So that'll be done within the next couple weeks, I think. And yeah, very happy to report back on that one. Another one that I've been working on a lot that doesn't look that different is my ripple crop top. Is that what it's called? I always forget. It's like a tank version and a T version, and I don't think it's called T. I think it's just called ripple crop top, and the other one is like ripple crank. I don't know. This is from Jessie Made Designs, and it's the t-shirt version of the ripple shirt. And right now it looks like a thneed from the Lorax, but that's not what it is. It will be a t-shirt. It's just all on the same needle. So I have 3 different portions of knitting that are all on the same circular needle. Ian, stop it. Don't you do it. Getting into my other project. She's like kneading it. All right. So, but I do think you can start to see here, now that I'm finally on the neck shaping, how pretty this detail is working out. And this side of the V-neck. So this over here is the armhole, and this is the neck. And then I'll have the other side of the neck work up here. And this yarn is delightful. It's Tassie Merino from Handmade Travels. Gorgeous. It's a light fingering weight. It's incredibly soft. I do think when I block it, I'm going to block it for length. The pattern encourages you to knit as long as you want under the arms to get the coverage you want, but I have just about enough to make it to pattern, and I'm afraid of running out. And since it's a bottom up pattern, I really didn't want to risk it. I did a little bit longer, maybe like ½ an inch or an inch, but I didn't want to go too far because I'm really afraid of getting to the top and running out. This is 3x3 ribbing on this light fingering yarn. My needles are 3.5 millimeter needles, which is a US 4, and it's taking a really long time. I've been working on this basically all summer, and you can see I'm like kind of a little more than halfway through, so I really, really don't want to have to rip this back. Something else I've learned while working on this, and a couple other whips that have been kicking around all summer, is that I'm really unmotivated to work on bottom up tops. I love when knitting being able to see the finishing touches emerge and to kind of see the garment as you're making it. I'm one of those people that likes to do the collar before I'm even done with the body, sometimes do the sleeves before I'm done with the body, to be able to get it looking kind of like the finished product along the way. I just find that really motivating. And with bottom up things, I just don't feel that way. It's just a tube. And I'm not motivated to it's not that I'm unmotivated. It just feels like I'm going in a circle forever, and it's not very interesting. Whereas if you go the other way around, you have this interesting piece, and yeah, you have to do the same amount of tube at the bottom, but you can already see how good it is. You can see so many of the finishing touches already wrapped up that it's so much more encouraging, in my opinion. So I think in the future I need to keep in mind that maybe bottom-up construction is not for me, especially in the summertime, especially with fingering weight yarns, because I have several that have been languishing for a really long time. I have one that I started last summer, never finished. It sat in storage all winter, and I took it out and did a bunch more on it this summer, but I haven't picked it up in a month because I'm so bored. And it's like so close to being done that there's absolutely no sense in stopping. But also I'm not moving forward on it because I'm over it. So I'm learning that about myself. I need to consider the garment construction when I'm choosing patterns. So another one that I've been working on a lot this week, there's some stuff to show for it, but it's not super easy to see because this one is knit in panels. And I had talked about this last time. I didn't have much done last time. I do now. This is my I Found Him lace cardigan, which is a pattern from the Outlander knitting book. And it is in panels. So this is just the back panel. And there is some armhole shaping here that you really can't see because it wants to curl in on itself, but it's got this cool eyelet lace pattern. This is Comfy Cotton Blend from Lion Brand. So it's a half acrylic, half cotton. It's quite lightweight and breathable, and it definitely needs to block, but from experience, this yarn really blossoms after blocking. It gets really soft. It gets more and more comfy with wear, and I'm super looking forward to having it. I finished that back panel, which was the first panel in the pattern, and then I'm really quite nearly done. Wow, look at this little tube. This is one of the front panels. I don't remember which side it is. I guess I could just like look at this. This would be the neck, so it's the left side. Yeah, I've got a couple more rows on that. There's some neck shaping going on, and I did take a little interlude and like go through my button collection, trying to decide which buttons to use, and I can't decide. So maybe this is something you gotta vote on in the comments for me because I can't choose. I have a whole bunch of these vintage ones. This pattern calls for 9 buttons. And I had a couple other ones that I thought would work and that I liked. And they weren't enough. I just got distracted by a text on my watch and I forgot what I was saying. Oh, I had some other buttons that I liked, but there was not 9 of them. I don't want to buy buttons for this. I have a big button collection for this reason. So I found these, which are just plain, oops, oh my gosh, plain black ones that apparently at one time cost me $1. But yeah, there's definitely 9 here. There's little plastic vintage black buttons, or these blue ones. So the blue ones kind of look nice, but I kind of feel like they might be too shiny for this dark blue. But then also the black ones might be too boring for a blue cardigan. These are the only ones that I thought are the right size that I have enough of already. So tell me what you think. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, I'll keep moving along on that one. It's a DK weight, so it's going a little faster. And like, again, I'm kind of over summer knits. I'm looking forward to fall. I can't stop planning my fall knits. I have like 3 sweaters that I'm super excited to cast on, but I'm trying to make myself wrap up some of these loose ends first. But at the same time, I can't stop myself, and I started another California sweater, and I did start one more project that I'm going to talk about today that is almost done, but like I could have worked on all these summer things, but I'm like looking forward to fall, and I'm kind of already thinking about cardigans and layering pieces and fall garments. So I've been getting more done on these California sweaters and on this cardigan than I have been on all of these t-shirts and stuff like that. All right, so this one I have, again, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about this. This is also a pattern repeat because I made one of these last year. I was having one of those days when I just needed to cast something on. I was just so restless and antsy and itching to do something different, which there's nothing wrong with this. That's who I am. I love to have a lot of projects. That is why I have cultivated my crafts and my life to be able to indulge that. That's why I have a big yarn stash, because sometimes it just fixes my day to be able to go into my yarn stash and pick a whole bunch of yarns and start a weird random kind of scrappy. It's not really scrappy, but I used up a bunch of single skeins on this project. So last year I made a granny pop v-neck. I think it was really cute. I wore it a couple times. I got compliments on it from folks at yarn stores. So I feel like crocheters recognize and appreciate it. And I just wanted to do something new. And when that happens, I didn't have any other crochet projects on at the time. And I just thought it's a good idea to do crochet, and it's a good idea to pick a larger gauge. And this one is specifically a worsted weight. So I knew it would go pretty quick. I made one last year that did go quick, and this did just the trick. So I am like 99% done with this right now. I just have a ton of ends to weave in. Not all of them. I do weave in my ends as I go, but I used a different color for every row on this, which means I have 2 ends for every single row on the body and every single row on the sleeves, which is a lot. So it's like a raglan style granny stitch. And you go kind of crochet back and forth flat for the v-neck, and then once you get below the v-neck, you join in the round and make the whole body and do the ribbing, and then you go back and do the sleeves just like a raglan. I had a lot of fun picking the colors. I did take a photo of all of the yarns when I first chose them sitting in the basket together. I will say at that time I hadn't added this one to the mix yet, so I'll put the photo up, but I will show you this one. The color that I chose to be the kind of main color, which is the like ribbing on all of the pieces, is this blue. And this is, again, an Extinct Knit Crate yarn. And I have this in several colors. This is one that I definitely got from the monthly club, but then stocked up on also. It's called Vitalana Celestial. And I don't remember which colors are which, because one of them is called Titan, which I believe might be the blue, just based on my knowledge of astronomy. That would make sense. But this purple one is also the same base. And I only added the purple later after I got like 30-35% of the way through and realized like, oh, the amount of yarn I have in the colors I initially chose is probably not quite enough to get all the way through the sweater. So I supplemented. So you can see the entire raglan and down to most of the way through the body, there's no purple. It doesn't exist in this bit. But I was like, it's probably not worth. She just jumped into the basket of yarn. Ugh. It's probably not worth going back. I'm just going to add it at the bottom. It's a kind of scrappy looking thing anyway, and then I just made sure to add it pretty high up on the sleeves to try to balance it. So in addition to that yarn base, which is about half of what's in the sweater, I had, all right, it's hard to show. They're in the, the original photo as well, but there was these 4 colors, and these 2 look really similar, but the 2 off-whites were actually a little bit different. And they came as a set from Knit Crate. That was one of the months. Instead of getting 2 100-gram skeins, they sent 4 50-gram skeins that went together. And Knitology Worsted, that's what it says. And the colorway, which was like the set of 4 colorways, was called Dune. So I've just about depleted each of these. This is all that's left of all 4 colors. I also chose all of these colors based on the fact that I had 2 skeins of this. I believe it's Happy Camper. Ooh, I thought I had all my tags here, but now I'm not seeing it. So I got these at Rhinebeck 2 years ago from Dancing Leaf Dye Works, I believe. And it's a really pretty color in the skein, but this is one of those excellent examples of, I love these colors so much when they're abstractly on a thing like a skein of yarn. And I was inspired to buy 2 skeins of it because they look so pretty as a thing, but then turning this into a garment is not something I find super wearable. This is something we've talked about a lot with my Knit Year's resolutions last year and this year, and trying to purchase yarns that I'm more likely to actually use and wear. So I was trying to find a way to make this sort of wearable for me. So I chose all of these other yarns, the blue and the purple and that pack of Dune yarns, and also this pink, which is the only one that's actually not worsted. This is a DK, but it's granny stitch. It kind of fits in fine. This one is actually a 50-50 wool, probably merino and cotton blend that I picked up in a clearance bin from Seventh Heaven Yarns at the Central New York Fiber Festival a couple years ago. Both of the Knit Crate bases are largely alpaca. They sourced a lot of their yarns when they were operational from Peru, which, you know, has a lot of alpaca categorically. So the Celestial base, which is the purple and the blue, has 90% alpaca, 10% tencel. And that's the same label, so that's not helpful. The Knitology worsted is entirely superwash merino, so I was wrong about that. But there is, it's largely wool. I don't think there's any synthetic in here, which is weird for me. Usually I tend to have yarns with some amount of acrylic in them, or especially for like a scrappy project. But yeah, this is like almost entirely natural fiber, if not entirely. Yeah, it's like wool and alpaca and wool and a wool cotton blend. Yeah. So I'm enjoying it. It was a nice palette cleanser. This is some of the ends I'm talking about. So I stopped, I think, 3 or 4 times during the duration of the project and just like sat there and woven ends for a long time, because I knew if I got to the end and I actually had all of the ends left, I wouldn't do it. It would just sit there forever. So all the ends in the body and the neck are woven in, and I actually stopped and did the top half of the sleeves. So I have the ends on the bottom half of the sleeve on both sides to weave in, because my strategy for doing these colors was entirely random and there's no real order to the colors. So when I did the sleeves, I did them at the same time to make sure that the order was the same, because even though it's like scrappy and randomized, I don't think I could handle if the sleeves look different from one another. So they're not the same as the body, but they're the same as each other. So I just have a bunch more ends on both, and then on this side you can see the cuff is just barely started, but on this side the cuff is all done. So I have probably about half an hour's worth of crochet left to do to finish that one cuff, and then just a bunch of ends to weave in, and I'll be all done with that one. So again, another one that's like more looking forward to cool weather and layering, but I really wanted to do it right now, so I did. So I'm gonna try to keep that feeling in check. I'm gonna try to do more of finishing off projects for the rest of August, so that when September comes around, I'm actually able to cast on some of these really exciting fall knits that I'm looking forward to so much. I have no acquisitions because, again, I've been really focused on stash busting, but I did place one order that will end up being an acquisition next time, because I have a particular sweater in mind that I really wanted to make this fall, and I didn't have what I needed, and Knit Picks had a sale. So I did it. Anyway, for now, that's all I have. I'm so pleased that you were able to join today. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. I would also love to add, for the watch to the end crowd, holy smokes, you guys came through. I thought I was just off the rails blabbering to myself, and I really thought so many people click away before the video ends. I bet like virtually nobody's gonna see this. The amount of comments that I got that said people watched to the end floored me, and I'm so pleased. Thank you guys. I'm so glad that you're here, because I know you're still here. Now I know. I won't question you again. I get it. But thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. And I will see you back next time. We're that much closer to fall. Bye.